Have you ever ironed a shirt while hanging off a cliff? Or kept bees on a New York City rooftop? While most people are scrolling through their phones or binge-watching the latest series, there are communities of people around the world dedicating their lives to the most bizarre, unexpected, and frankly mind-blowing hobbies you've probably never heard of. And trust me, by the end of this video, you're going to want to join at least one of these strange subcultures. Welcome to The Curious Root, where we explore the fascinating corners of human creativity and obsession. Let's start with something that sounds like a joke, but is absolutely real. Extreme ironing. Yes, you heard that right. There are people who take their ironing boards to the most dangerous, remote, and uncomfortable places on Earth just to press a wrinkled shirt. This isn't just about doing laundry in weird spots. This is a full-blown international sport with competitions, records, and thousands of dedicated participants. The sport was born in Leicester, England, in 1997, when a man named Phil Shaw decided that rock climbing wasn't exciting enough on its own. He needed to add the mundane task of ironing to make it truly thrilling. Since then, extreme ironers have taken their boards underwater, to mountaintops, while skydiving, and even while riding bulls. The community has chapters across the globe, from Germany to New Zealand, and they take their ironing very seriously. They have specific rules about what counts as a valid extreme iron, including that the board must be a real ironing board, the iron must be heated, and at least one item of clothing must be properly pressed during the activity. These aren't just daredevils looking for attention. They're part of a tight-knit community that celebrates the absurdity of combining domestic chores with extreme sports. And here's the kicker. They argue that extreme ironing is the perfect combination of the thrill of an extreme outdoor activity with the satisfaction of a well-pressed shirt. But wait, before you think that's the weirdest thing you'll hear today, let me introduce you to urban beekeeping. Now, keeping bees might not sound that unusual at first, but we're not talking about rural farms or countryside meadows. We're talking about rooftops in Manhattan, balconies in Tokyo, and backyard hives in downtown Chicago. Urban beekeeping has exploded in popularity over the past decade, creating a subculture of city dwellers who are fighting back against declining bee populations while producing their own honey in the concrete jungle. These aren't just casual hobbyists. Urban beekeepers are deeply committed to understanding bee behavior, local ecology, and sustainable practices. They attend workshops, join online forums, and participate in monthly meetups where they discuss everything from varroa mite treatments to the best urban flowers for bee nutrition. In cities like Paris, London, and San Francisco, there are now thousands of registered urban beekeepers, many operating hives on restaurant rooftops, office buildings, and even on top of the Sydney Opera House. The honey they produce often tastes better than rural honey because urban environments offer a more diverse range of flowers and plants. Plus, cities tend to use fewer pesticides than industrial farms, making urban environments surprisingly bee-friendly. The community aspect is incredible too. Urban beekeepers share resources, split hives, and help each other through challenges. They see themselves as environmental warriors, doing their part to save pollinators one rooftop at a time. Speaking of unexpected hobbies, have you ever heard of competitive duck herding? This is exactly what it sounds like, but somehow even more elaborate than you'd imagine. Originating in rural farming communities but now practiced worldwide, competitive duck herding involves training ducks to respond to commands, navigate obstacle courses, and perform coordinated movements. Unlike sheep herding, which uses dogs, duck herders work directly with their flocks, using specific calls, gestures, and training techniques passed down through generations. The sport has official competitions with cash prizes, trophies, and regional championships. Participants spend years training their ducks, forming bonds with individual birds, and perfecting their herding techniques. The community is incredibly supportive, with experienced herders mentoring newcomers and sharing breeding tips for the best herding ducks. What makes this subculture fascinating is how seriously participants take something that sounds utterly ridiculous to outsiders. They have technical terminology, heated debates about training methods, and entire conventions dedicated to duck herding excellence. It's a reminder that any activity, no matter how unusual, can develop depth, complexity, and passionate followers when people dedicate themselves to mastering it. Now, let's talk about something that combines art, rebellion, and a love of yarn. Yarn bombing, also called guerrilla knitting, is the practice of covering public objects with knitted or crocheted material. This isn't your grandmother's knitting circle, though some grandmothers are definitely involved. Yarn bombers work in secret, often at night, to transform lampposts, park benches, statues, and even entire buses into colorful, soft, fabric-covered art installations. The movement started in Houston, Texas in 2005 when a boutique owner covered her door handle with a custom-knitted cozy. From there, it spread globally, becoming a form of street art that's both whimsical and subversive. The yarn bombing community is incredibly organized, with crews that plan installations months in advance, creating custom pieces designed specifically for their targets. They see their work as a gentler, friendlier form of graffiti that adds warmth and color to urban spaces without causing permanent damage. Large-scale yarn bombing projects have covered entire bridges, wrapped trees in rainbow patterns, and even decorated tanks and military vehicles as peace statements. The community aspect is strong, with knitting circles that double as planning sessions for their next installation. They use encrypted messaging apps to coordinate, share patterns online, and celebrate each other's work through social media. For many yarn bombers, it's about reclaiming public space, challenging what art can be, and bringing unexpected joy to strangers walking through their cities. Then, there's the world of competitive stone stacking, also known as rock balancing. This ancient practice has evolved into a global subculture of artists and meditators who spend hours, sometimes days, creating impossible-looking towers and arrangements of stones without using any adhesives or supports. Just gravity, patience, and an almost supernatural understanding of balance. The competitive scene includes festivals and gatherings where stackers create temporary installations that photograph beautifully before being toppled by wind or waves. But the community isn't really about competition. It's about the meditative process, the connection with nature, and the satisfaction of achieving something that appears to defy physics. Stone stackers talk about entering flow states, developing an intuitive sense of each rock's center of gravity, and the spiritual aspect of working with natural materials. Online communities share their creations, discuss techniques, and defend the practice against critics who argue it disturbs natural habitats. The debate within the community about whether to dismantle stacks after creating them or leave them for others to discover is ongoing and passionate. What outsiders see as simply stacking rocks, practitioners experience as a form of moving meditation, environmental art, and physical problem-solving, all combined into one incredibly challenging hobby. Let's not forget about train surfing's legal cousin, freight train photography, or railfanning as insiders call it. While this might sound straightforward, the subculture around train photography is incredibly complex and surprisingly controversial. Dedicated rail fans travel thousands of miles to photograph specific locomotive models, track rare paint schemes, and document obscure railway lines before they're decommissioned. They maintain detailed databases, share real-time information about train movements, and have developed an elaborate code of ethics about where and how to photograph trains safely and legally. The community has its celebrities, legendary photographers whose shots are revered, and ongoing debates about digital versus film photography for capturing trains. There are subgroups within the subculture, too. Some focus exclusively on steam locomotives, others on modern freight operations, and still others on abandoned railways and ghost stations. They publish magazines, organize photo excursions, and attend conventions where they share stories about close calls, amazing catches, and the one locomotive that got away. To outsiders, it might seem like just taking pictures of trains, but to rail fans, it's about documenting history, appreciating engineering, and being part of a community that understands why spending an entire Saturday waiting for a specific train to pass through a particular location is time well spent. What makes all these subcultures special isn't just the unusual nature of the hobbies themselves, it's the communities that form around them. These groups prove that humans will find meaning, connection, and purpose in the most unexpected activities. Whether it's pressing shirts on mountaintops, keeping bees on skyscrapers, herding ducks through obstacle courses, bombing cities with yarn, balancing impossible towers of stone, or photographing trains in remote locations, these hobbyists have found their tribes. They've discovered that passion and dedication can transform any activity into something profound. These communities offer belonging, shared knowledge, and the understanding that what others might see as weird is actually wonderful. In our increasingly digital and disconnected world, these unusual hobbies remind us that real connection happens when people share authentic interests, no matter how quirky those interests might be. So the next time you think your hobby is too weird or that no one else would understand, remember that somewhere out there someone is ironing a shirt while bungee jumping, and they've found an entire community of people who not only understand, but celebrate them for it. The world is full of curious routes to happiness, and sometimes the strangest paths lead to the most interesting destinations. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever encountered any of these unusual hobby communities? Or do you have your own bizarre hobby that others might not understand? Drop a comment below and share your story. And if you enjoyed exploring these fascinating subcultures with me, hit that subscribe button and join the Curious Root community. We dive into the weird, the wonderful, and the unexpectedly fascinating every week. Thanks for watching, and remember, stay curious.